guys, welcome.
It's freaking Kirstin Riley!
Make sure to spit your gum out.
Can I just swallow it?
No, you can't swallow gum.
It
You
stays
can't
in your
swallow gum,
intestines for
children.
8 years
No, that's
if you
actually
do
a
that.
myth. It's not true.
It's not, yeah, but it's not good for you. Honey.
Save the rap
She's
words
on
for
to
the
it.
Picture perfect, you don't need no filter. Or just make him drop dead, you a killer. I fully expect this to be the intro.
Oh, for sure.
KRF.
54.
Kirstin Riley, Micah. KRF.
I feel like it's around here. I'm gonna burp now. Micah knows how to belch. We have the one and only Micah with us today.
Let's go.
Micah's legit one of my favorite humans in the world.
He really is. He's the kind of guy friend that every girl wishes they
deserves.
had.
But he is creative and talented.
He's a
but
yes
also
man.
so kind.
That's
He
true.
gives you honest opinion. I find it's so hard to find guy friends that will give you an honest opinion and maybe like tell you what you don't want to hear and just be like your soundboard for dating advice, life advice. And so we figured, you know, like a lot of our videos, we're obviously talking about dating and giving you a lot of like point of views of girls and our point of views, but we always want to stay open and like get different perspectives. So we're like, we probably should get some male energy in here and
Bring a guy in.
Yes, so that's what we're gonna go into today.
Introduce yourself. Okay.
Where are you from?
What's
How long
up?
you been in LA?
Yeah, so I'm from Michigan, born and raised. I've been in LA a year and a half. When did we meet? I met you, when did we meet?
I have no idea.
Because it was more recent. We met a few months ago and I met you.
You guys met when Micah.
Wait.
Wait, Micah.
Oh.
If you're
Yes.
watching and you see any of our intro or outro montage clips,
Summertime.
Micah filmed it, and that's
Once
actually
we're
where.
dancing in Malibu.
Yeah.
So that's
in
where they
Vancouver.
met, because he came to shoot us, and that's the
Yeah.
first time they met. And this is what I mean. Like
Yeah.
Micah's such a yes man, so supportive. Like he was just like, yeah, you guys are starting this YouTube channel, awesome. I'll come film you, and he's so talented.
The best part about that is that when we went out and shot that content, Kirstin's friend Chris saw what I shot and literally hired me at a company.
Yes.
And I started working for
Open
his company.
doors.
Shout out to Chris.
Kindness can open doors, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that's like honestly just this whole story of my LA experience.
Yeah.
It's
Do you want
just
to like
I rolled in and
tell your experience? Give us a quick synopsis.
So I've been here a year and a half. I moved here, did a semester of school at the end, like graduated in the spring, moved here in the fall, did a semester of school, and then everybody in that semester pretty much bounced and went back home. It was like a bunch of Midwest people. And then I stayed. I wanted to be here. I wanted to be in the industry doing film stuff, video, photo. And it was the worst. I had a terrible like December, January, February, just like depressed and not finding work and didn't know anybody and didn't have friends and was spending too much money on rent and living with two brothers who I love dearly, but they're like just in a different chapter of life than I was. So it was honestly horrible, and just kind of stuck it out and waited and tried to do as much work as I could, and have slowly been finding some success and making more clients and gigs and whatever and doing more
yeah,
things.
you have been.
But yeah, it was a grind, and it's funny because shooting the stuff for Kirstin Riley's YouTube channel was actually a big part of
Wow.
my work.
That's so cool.
Isn't that crazy?
I love that.
That's wild.
And on top of it, we
Super.
were having, that was honestly one of the best days
It
I've
was
had in
so
LA.
much fun. I was looking back on footage from that, and I just
Yeah.
had so much nostalgia looking at it, because it was like, it was just the beginning of something. We didn't know what was going to come out of it, and we just had fun. And like, I think it's so important we get caught up in like, what are my career goals? Like, what's the outcome of this? But lose like the joy of the process.
Yep.
And that was just such a joyful day and experience. And
Yeah.
And we were talking about this the other day about having joy is something you have to protect. Just as you like, I have to protect my car when I'm driving in LA traffic and make sure some random guy doesn't pull over and try to smash into me. Joy is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than anything we might possess.
yeah,
But it's inside of us, but what does that look like to protect our joy?
right. Because I think a lot of times for me, like when I find my joy like running away is when I'm not managing my expectations well, because I think getting back to the results, like I'm expecting something to come out of this, or your expectations of other people and how they'll act. Those are things you can't control, but you can control just being content and grateful for what is already and like the process of everything. That's how I protect my joy. How do you protect your joy, Micah?
Yeah, that's actually a great topic to talk about for me for work, because my job is like what I'm passionate about. So that's the only reason I'm doing what I'm doing, is just because I fell in love with it when I first made a video ever. So for me, it's actually intense because it's this thing that I like have a lot of joy and like I'm invested in it a lot, creatively and emotionally and mentally, but then I have to do it for work, which is like a whole different mindset. So for me, whenever I go on a shoot, even if it's a shoot I don't want to do, I just try to like turn it into something that's going to be my style, or I'm going to do it my way, even if like the shoot itself isn't like something I would do on my own. And that's helped me a lot be like more positive and just like have fun with it. And then I just make sure I do things for fun too. I have to. So that was honestly another thing. Yeah, that day when we shot, we drove up PCH in a convertible VW Bug. And it was the first time I've been to Point Doom. We were like up there, watched the sunset, and it was like I was like working. You could say that because I was shooting for them, but that was like a good instance of me just being like, no, I'm gonna do this because I want to. And so it's like my job, but I have to sort of compartmentalize what's like a work job, and then I'm just like doing it for fun. And then it balances out and helps a lot.
And I think it's so important to follow the things that you want to do just to have joy, or things that you feel like your gut is telling you to do, even if it doesn't make sense of like, how does this fit into my career right now? A lot of times it will actually come into play later, and this isn't directly fueling into my business right now because I'm not making money off this, but then it actually, you never know how it's gonna serve.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the amount of times and I know people who don't do this, and I think that they're doing it wrong, but the amount of times that I've done a job for not a lot of money, or like below what I actually think I'm valued at, or for free, or for fun, is actually crazy. It's like probably more than I'd like to admit, and being a yes man, I also think that I have to like actively try not to do that too much. But the reason I do that is just because I love what I do. So not everything has to be money. Like I have full respect for entrepreneurial spirits who are like, we can make money off this and do that, blah 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 blah. Like I respect that. But to me, because it's a really close mesh between business and passion, I have to like shy away from that a little bit, or I'll just like lose it and burn out. And I honestly have felt some of that. If it weren't for the current clients that I'm working with giving me more creative freedom, like I would be ready to move out of shooting straight up. Like I would be done with video, because when it gets really businessy, I'm just like, I'm out. So I've made it a point to do things for fun and to keep that as like a big part of what I do with a camera in general, because it just like allows me to stay fresh.
And my mom always says like a no to someone else is a yes to you. And I sometimes feel like there are moments in our lives when it comes to our career, in order to protect our joy, we sometimes have to say no to someone else. And I was just thinking, when you're talking about that, like you've done so many shoots, created so much content, and sometimes it's been for free. But God never wastes a moment, and He never wastes a person. And so it's like you're creating like not like finance wealth, but like people wealth. Like people and God cares about our characters. So like for your character, for someone to be like, man, Micah's just so generous. Sorry. Hallelujah. The sneeze is like, yes, girl.
That was my amen. Continue.
But just like you're building this people wealth.
Yeah.
And proving to people like you'll go above and beyond them in generosity, which says more than, hey, if you wouldn't mind, could you pay me? Like that sacrifice, and in LA, honestly, y'all, that's rare. Like this kind of person is rare.
Yes.
Thank you. Wow. And that's my natural disposition, is I care way more about relationships than like a product or whatever. Like I care way more about good friendships or good work relationships or whatever. Like people, it's valuable to meet people. It's valuable to meet somebody who knows somebody else and who does this. Like literally that's my whole career. It's been based off of showing up and being there and just getting in rooms, and people, like, straight up, people will come up to me and be like, oh, you do work for whatever, and then I'm like, yeah, and they're like, okay, I got work for you. And they're like, they haven't looked at a single video of mine, they don't know if I'm good, they haven't seen me edit, they haven't, like, they don't even know if I'm shooting video or photo, and they'll just be like, here's work.
Yeah, work gets work.
Yeah, so I'm just like, take the opportunities that people give you and just do stuff, and like, you just don't freak out and get all worried about like the result or what's gonna come like of the thing itself, because I just think it's always going to be way beyond what you think it could be.
And it reminds me of that quote about how God sees our willingness, or wants our willingness rather than our ability. Yeah. Like, these people see your willingness, and that's what got you through a door, as opposed to your ability, which your ability is naturally there. But like, I feel like God is more of his love language is our willingness. Yeah.
And it's cool because when I didn't have any of this and I was still living in Michigan, I was still watching a lot of content. I was studying, and I was like, yo, like, I've seen Versace ads and I've seen Super Bowl ads that are like bad. Like, there's one in my mind, it was like an Instagram story ad from Versace, and it was so bad. It was I was like, yo, I could have made that like 6 years ago, and I didn't. It was so bad, and I was just like, look, I was confused by that when I first saw it, and then now that I'm sort of in this world, I understand. It's like, there's probably some awesome person behind that video. Whoever was hiring someone wanted this person to work on the job, and they weren't the best. They didn't have the best camera, like weren't the best editor or whatever, but they probably were a great person, got hired on because of who they were. So it's cool. Like, it's cool to be in the industry and see that like people are being rewarded for being awesome. Yeah. Just as much as people are rewarded for being really talented.
Right. A lot of what you were saying reminded me of my journey as an actress. Like, in the beginning, I did so much unpaid stuff, like student films and, you know, like indie projects. And it's like, because I have to build my reel and my portfolio and my connections. And
you have to.
You don't know how a lot of those things are going to turn out. And a lot of them weren't great. But it is about building your team and taking an experience and like learning everything you can from it. Like, I think it's De Niro and Scorsese who started out doing each other's student films together at USC, and now they've done so many films together throughout their careers. And it's like that's really, it's like we're all on the rise together, and just being there in the grind and like willing to support each other regardless of what the outcome is going to be. That's when I think the best results come.
And we've said this before to you guys, but I just want to remind you, like I hope your character and your community match your calling. And like, I would also add one more, like, character, community, and capacity match your calling. Yeah. Like, you have the capacity, you're building the community, and you have the character. Yeah. And that's part of what's calling you.
As you were even saying that, I was thinking about how some of the things in your career you feel like you can't control because you don't have the opportunity yet. Like when you were in Michigan, I'm sure you're like, there's not as many opportunities. But what you did do is you studied, which developed like your, I guess that'd be your capacity and like your character. You worked on yourself during that time, I'm sure. And all those things prepared you for what you're doing now. And I think it's so important that like, because I think you can find an excuse of like, well, I don't have this thing in line yet, I don't have that thing in line yet, and I can't step into that. But there's always something you can be doing, and like when the time comes, the door will be open.
Micah, I have a question for you. In the waiting and the grinding, like you've talked a lot about these seasons of your life where you just kept at it, even though things weren't like physically lining up in your career. What do you think you did well in the waiting and the grinding?
Ooh, what did I do well?
Like, it sounds like you kept at it, like you kept studying and you kept expanding your mind and working on your craft.
Honestly, what I did well, I think, looking back on like a year ago, was not really about my craft as much as it was about me.
Oh, that's good.
So like when I was fresh in LA, I was applying to like Starbucks and the mall and like jobs that were not gonna help me in career, but getting job applications done made me feel good because I didn't have work coming in and I wasn't doing a ton of camera stuff. I didn't have a lot of freelance gigs, so I was just like, I have to apply for jobs, I have to make money, like I have to do something. And so literally just like, and I hate, who likes job applications, but I hated doing it. It's like homework. I hated school. I hate paperwork. I hate doing all that stuff. And so it was really hard, but I like made myself just get them done. And I applied to like 70 jobs. I was on like ZipRecruiter and Indeed and like all these different whatever. just applying for jobs. Didn't get a single interview. Not at Starbucks, not at the mall. No retail job. Didn't get one single interview. And now I'm like, oh, like,
God
cool.
is like, nope,
that was
you're not
because
gonna
God
do
didn't
that.
want me to work those jobs. Like I think.
He probably threw away all your
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm
applications.
just gonna
He's
block
nope,
these right now.
You're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like it was a matter of doing what I needed to in that moment, and like just letting the future sort of wait and just chill and like not worry about that right now because think about it, like I'm trying to do a video in LA and I'm applying to a Starbucks. Like that's not going to help me. You know what I mean? But the point wasn't about any of that. It was about just getting something done today that's going to help me be happy enough to like have an appetite to eat dinner and sleep well at night, like and then wake up tomorrow and do the next thing tomorrow, which then as I sort of got the ball rolling on that, it was like, okay, I'm going to not apply to any jobs today, I'm going to work on a video. And that was when I was like, okay, I feel good about what I did yesterday, let's do something creative that's not going to like help me make money, but it's just going to like work on my portfolio and like build my editing skills, whatever. That was sort of what I tried to do as I was.
You got me thinking about how often am I in the present moment and I'm doing something for the future or thinking about the past instead of like doing what I actually need in the present moment.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Well,
and how do you guys find like what you need in the present moment, do you feel?
Well, I feel like I use the past as kind of like a signal of what I need right in the moment, and then I use what I believe God wants me to do in the future. So it's like they meet in the present moment. The past and the present can meet right now, and they can intertwine as one. But in the present moment, I just feel like sometimes, even me, my thoughts are like all over the place. I'm more of a futuristic person. And so like calming my thoughts and just being like, there's like a storm in my mind, letting the storm calm down and like just clearing it away so that I can feel the sunshine on my face at the very moment.
Yeah. And that's so good and like so poetic. People who are watching, like, what are like practical ways that you do that?
So this sounds really ridiculous, but when I drink water, so like I usually have water or like my water bottle with me, but every time I drink water, it's a reminder to myself it's like mindfulness. Like it's when I drink the water, I remind myself, Riley, present moment, come back to the present moment. And it's like my check-in, like, am I thinking of the past? Am I thinking of the future? Or am I right now? So it's so simple, but drinking water is my habit to remind myself to come back to the present moment.
Right, that's so good.
That's so good.
Sometimes for me, it's just like internally like narrating to myself what's going on. Like I'm walking down the street, I'm like, that's a cool tree. Like the sun is shining, and it's like, it sounds really silly, but I think there's so many times where I'm like not noticing these things around me. I'm not being present. But if you like force yourself to do that in a time, I feel like I only have to do that when I'm feeling really overwhelmed and like in my head about stuff.
Yeah.
But it really brings you back to reality and like settles you in.
Well, one thing I love, like whether you are a Christian or not, one of my favorite stories is like Jesus, and he had all these disciples, and he told the disciples to go off and go out and like help people, but he told them not to bring anything with them. And why he said that is because he wanted people to rely on the people around him, because if he sent his disciples off with packed food of lunch, like then the disciples would be ready and know they have food for tomorrow. But instead, he was forcing them to be in the present moment, to actually have to ask for help to people around him. Or like when he fed he gave the fish and the loaves. Like the disciples were so hungry, and God, instead of pre-packing lunch, made them go get food in that moment. And what I'm saying may not make sense, but what I mean is that God constantly, Jesus in his stories, constantly reminded us that we don't need to think of what we need tomorrow. We don't need to think of what we had yesterday. We need to think of what we need right now.
Yeah, so good.
I have a really practical okay. I downloaded an app like a year ago, and not like this isn't like a paid thing. I'm just sharing it. I wish it was paid.
Yeah.
It's called Summit, and it's got all my to-do lists on it, or it's got like all my little things, whatever, and it's super easy. There's like your dates on the top, so this is like my week, and then I have all my to-do lists, and I will if you're like me and you're creative and your mind is all over the place, just go get Summit. It's
I
like
want to download it right now.
If you have an iPhone, like I didn't find using Reminders app was helpful, and I didn't find using the calendar app. This is them together. So you have by day, you have a thing, and when you're done, you swipe it and it's gone. And you can bring it back if you need it, whatever.
That's great.
So if you're like me and you're all over the place, you, instead of having to remember them in your head, you put them on a list, and then as you check them off, you're like, oh, I'm getting things done. And then the other thing is you don't ever have to remember anything, so you can keep your brain fresh to like do something creative or like be present, because you don't have to be thinking about it. And that's what I used to have to do.
Reminders?
And then it can if you want to. You can set like time or whatever, but I just put them on there and then I just check and it keeps a notification.
It's downloading.
I swear we're not being sponsored, but
no, we should.
We should.
Summit. Sponsor us.
Moral of the
wait,
story
okay.
is
Productivity. Write your stuff down. You can have these big goals and it seems like insurmountable. Like, how do I get to that? But just break it down of like how to do one step at a time.
Yeah.
Film one video today. Edit something tomorrow.
I have a huge documentary I'm working on really slowly, and like to get anything done on it, because it's such a big project, I just have to like schedule time to sit with the guy I made it with and like work for 2 hours or whatever. Like I can't. So the moral of the story is like, have your way of motivating yourself to take steps and get something done today. And think about it like the little things are it's all progress. If you keep making progress every day, even if it's slowly, like you're going to get somewhere. But if you're like stuck, you're not doing anything. So just do one thing. Take a walk. Like literally do one thing that's gonna help you, or that's gonna be an accomplishment. And then you have that, and then it's like, okay, now what? Like as soon as you do that first thing, it's over.
The author of Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert, she has this genius TED Talk, and she says this whole idea of like how genius isn't a person. Like we like to attribute that like somebody is a genius, but she talks about genius as this like fleeting like inspirational force, and how like it's not your job to be a genius, it's your job to show up and allow yourself to be a vessel of the genius. So she's like, there'll be days where she shows up and she doesn't get any writing done, but she forces herself to sit there for an hour. And it's like my writing teacher has this system of like, you sit and you write for 48 minutes, or just sit in front of your computer and don't do anything else, even if you're not getting any, if you're just thinking about it for 48 minutes. And after the 48 minutes, you have to go on a walk for 12 minutes or do something for 12 minutes. Even if you're in the middle of like, of being on a roll, just get up and give yourself that 12-minute break and then go back into the 48 minutes. Yeah,
because how you do anything doesn't matter. Straight up. It doesn't matter. Just
do it. Just show up. Like, and even if you don't get anything written that day, the point is like, it might be preparing you for the next day when 100%. The genius shows up, and then you have this breakthrough.
All of a sudden you write this amazing chapter, and it's like, wow, where was that yesterday? It wasn't there, but yesterday helped me get there today.
Exactly.
And they did this study on what makes great parents, which may sound really random and off topic, but what happened is they realized that it wasn't about the parents, like how perfect they use or what tools they use. It was whether the parents showed up or not, whether they were just there with quality time. Even if the quality time wasn't that good, if the parents were there, the kid's future was like more likely to be successful. And I feel like for us and our hearts and our careers, if we show up to our heart or if we show up to our career, like that says something, even if we're not that effective when we show up. But at least like if I sit down and I have 48 minutes where I do nothing but just like show up, then I'm teaching my heart and my mind that this is what's going on. Like we're here, we're being faithful to my heart.
Yeah, you got to think of showing up as doing something. Because a lot of people are like, I showed up but didn't do any. Like, oh, I went to work but I didn't get any work done. It's like, well, you went to work.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. You have a job, you know?
It's a big
deal. I think, and then taking that pressure off allows yourself to create something amazing. Because I think when you have so much pressure on yourself of, I need to create today, you're not gonna be at your best as an artist.
No, you just gotta flow. You just gotta chill.
Just chill, brah. Just chill. That's one thing California has taught you. Has it been to just chill?
I've always been chill.
He's been chilling since, what year were you born?
1996.
He's been chilling since 96.
Yeah.
Chillin', brah.
Yeah, I just really want to honor Micah for being here, for sharing your perspective. We could have picked your brain for hours.
Yeah. I could talk. I feel like I should have said a million things. Can you like link my Instagram?
Oh, we will.
And then hit me up if you want to chat. I love to talk about this kind of thing. Yeah. Because I am somebody who like, I don't know, I didn't really have a lot of help with like a lot of things. So like if something I said, like you saw it and you were like, oh, I want to know about that, just
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
What's your
Yeah.
Instagram handle?
Yeah,
We'll
Micah.
tag it in post-production.
It's at Micah Rynders.
Ask him any questions.
Ask
him
any
about
questions.
relationship advice, career
Yeah, hit me up.
advice.
Yes.
Homeboy will answer with some wisdom.
I love helping people out, so
You do.
yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to plug that.
Yes. Thank you, Micah.
Yeah.
Thank
thanks for
you,
having me.
guys.
Well,
Awesome.
thanks for tuning in. Thanks for letting me
Yes.
be on the show. And you gotta have good intentions. You gotta have intentional intentions. And roll credits.
YouTube is gonna flag me for
Yeah, right. You got it. You're my muse. I can't refuse. Oh.
Can't nobody throw shade on your name in these streets.